Number 10. Haitian earthquake of 2010. The country of Haiti is the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So when disaster strikes there, it takes a huge toll. On January 12, 2010, a catastrophic 7.0 magnitude earthquake hit around 60 miles outside of the capital city of Port-au-Prince. It was felt by nearly 3 million people and was followed by an additional 52 aftershocks. Because of the poor living conditions and housing, a lack of preparation, and building construction that was not meant to withstand earthquakes, the small nation suffered greatly. Over 250,000 homes were destroyed, and around 30,000 commercial buildings collapsed. However, the death toll was much worse. As the conditions on the island make it hard for a definite number to be given, the Haitian government reports that approximately 222,000 people were killed. Various independent investigations dispute that number, though, and claim that the government inflated the numbers in order to get more humanitarian aid. So numbers are more around 100,000, which is still terrible. Number 9. 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. When earthquakes occur in the ocean, they trigger one of the most destructive forces on the planet, tsunamis. These massive waves can destroy entire cities, making it seem as if they never existed. In December of 2005, a 9.3 magnitude earthquake struck just off the coast of the island of Sumatra. This event, known as a megathrust earthquake, triggered a series of waves that reached heights of 100 feet high. Many coast cities and towns in Indonesia, India, Thailand, and Sri Lanka were decimated. These waves took the region completely by surprise. Waves were seen as far away as 5,300 miles from the epicenter of the quake. In total, 227,898 people were killed, with Indonesia experiencing the largest number of casualties. Humanitarian relief came very quickly and is credited with saving many of the other 1.7 million lives that were directly affected by this disaster. Number 8. Haiwan earthquake of 1920. The Asian continent is one of the most earthquake-prone regions in the world, where multiple tectonic plates meet and grind against each other on a regular basis. China is often at the center of the destruction. In 1920, in the Ningxia province of China, an estimated 273,400 people were killed after a huge quake and numerous aftershocks struck the region. It was more than just the shaking that did the damage, though. Numerous rivers were affected as well, resulting in extreme flooding in the region. In total, some 20,000 square kilometers were directly affected by the quake. However, many experts believe that the earthquake could have been much worse. China is the most populous country in the world, but this quake struck in a mostly rural area, away from the major cities. Even though it was one of the worst disasters in history, it was largely overshadowed by the drought and famine in the region at the time. Number 7. 1976 Tangshan earthquake. Staying in the country of China, we have the Tangshan earthquake of 1976. On July 28th of that year, at 3:42 in the morning, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck the city, which was home to nearly 1 million people. Everyone was taken completely by surprise. As the ground shook, around 85% of the buildings in the city were destroyed. After everything was said and done, at least 255,000 people had perished, and hundreds of thousands more were severely wounded. What made this particular earthquake unique and disastrous was that there were two separate shocks, one happening early in the morning and another happening later in the afternoon. 12 additional aftershocks occurred in the following few days, each being at least a magnitude 6.0. Number 6. Antioch earthquake of 526. Going back nearly 2,000 years, there was a particularly terrible earthquake that occurred in the year 526. Antioch was a city in the country of modern-day Syria, and an earthquake that is estimated to have been at least a 7.0 struck and relentlessly shook the city. It was a particularly bad earthquake that not only rattled the buildings, it destroyed much of the city's infrastructure. What was particularly disastrous, though, was the fire that was caused as a result of the earthquake. For nearly a week, this fire spread through the city, totally destroying each and every one of them. There is no official number for the death toll, but many scholars agree that somewhere between 250,000 and 300,000 people perished. Number 5. The Coringa cyclone of 1839. When it comes to severe weather, one of the most volatile places on Earth is the Indian Ocean. In certain areas of this ocean, more cyclones form each year than any other place in the world. Because of this, there is no official cyclone season for many of the countries. It just exists year-round. In 1839, one particular cyclone tore into the Indian city of Karinga and produced a storm surge that was 40 feet high. Water poured into the city in great volumes, destroying everything in its path. 300,000 people were left dead as a result. Over 25,000 ships were also destroyed, many of them washing inland. As this was one of the busiest port cities in the Bay of Bengal, the surrounding areas suffered greatly as a result of the economic impact. To this day, it is still considered one of the deadliest storms in human history. Number 4. 1970, Bhola Cyclone. One thing that is a huge factor in death tolls when it comes to huge storms is a person's living conditions and the ability to flee to safety. Both of these things were lacking in 1970 when a powerful cyclone made landfall along the eastern coast of Pakistan, which was formerly known as Bangladesh. This region was very ill prepared for a storm that packed winds of 115 miles per hour and came with a 33-foot high storm surge. Residents here lived in dwellings that were hardly more than shacks. They could not escape the path of the storm, nor did they have anywhere to properly shelter. As a result, nearly 500,000 people ended up perishing. This was not only due to the strong winds and high storm surge, there was so much rain dumped that various landslides were triggered as well. It took many years for the area to recover. Number 3. 1556, Shaanxi Earthquake. During China's Ming Dynasty, the country experienced one of the most powerful earthquakes in human history. It occurred around the Shaanxi province. Although there was no way to measure the intensity back then, it is believed that this earthquake was an 8.0 magnitude and affected an area of more than 840 square kilometers. During this time, much of the population were living in yaodongs, which were artificial caves that were built into cliffs. So when the earth started to shake, most of these caves simply collapsed, killing people in their homes. Many of the records kept around this time estimated that nearly 60% of the people had died from the earthquake and the landslides, flooding, and aftershocks that went on for nearly half a year afterwards. In total, around 830,000 people died. Number 2. Yellow River Flood of 1887. One other unique trait of China's geography is that there are tons of rivers running through it. These rivers aren't small either. They are a very integral feature that provides water and life for many of the country's inhabitants. But when torrential rains fall, the water levels can reach dangerous heights, decimating the surrounding lands. In September of 1887, heavy rainfall resulted in one of the deadliest natural disasters in history. The rain caused China's Yellow River to spill over its banks and flood around 50,000 square miles of northern China. Dikes burst and allowed the river to flow through the regions. The government response was very poor, and a lack of preparation made it even worse. At the end of it all, over 900,000 people died. Number 1. Central China Flood of 1931. In terms of natural disasters, none come close to the 1931 flood of central China. It was the result of a perfect storm of factors, causing 4 huge rivers to all flood at the same time. Things such as heavy rain, combined with melting snow and ice, caused the Yellow, Yangtze, Pearl, and Huai rivers to spill over their banks and cover an area of roughly 180,000 square kilometers. Farms all across the country were destroyed. Diseases such as measles, cholera, malaria, and dysentery rapidly spread across the country. At its worst, historians estimate that nearly 53 million people were affected by the flooding, with a death toll reaching an estimated 3.7 million people. In no time before or after have so many people died as a result of a natural disaster. What do you think of our picks? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check out some of our previous videos for more great content. We'll see you next time.